Hi, I'm Jason Hupp. I'm an application scientist here at LI-COR, and today I'm going to show you how to set up a LI-COR LI-8100A soil flux system with the Picarro trace gas analyzer. In this case, it's the G2508. There are a number of pneumatic connections that have to be made to make this happen, and then there's a number of things that have to be done in software configuration. Let's take a look at the pneumatic connections. So LI-COR provides a pre-built tubing assembly that connects from the air outline on the 8100 to the line that would go to the LI-8150. It just has two T's, and it places the trace gas analyzer in parallel to the outline of the 8100. And then we also provide a swage lock fitting that's used to go from the bare end of the 1/4-inch bevel line tubing in the assembly to the swage lock to vacuum line fitting that's provided by Picarro. Picarro provides the fittings to go from the outlet of the analyzer to the vacuum line of the vacuum pump necessary to run the analyzer, and then the vacuum outlet to a user swage lock. Okay, now let's look at software configuration. So the Picarro analyzers run Windows operating system, and so I placed the Windows application for the LI-8100A on the Picarro analyzer, and I've replaced this zip folder that contains a script that we'll use to synchronize the LI-8100A's clock to the clock on the Picarro. When we do this integration with this analyzer, we wind up recording two separate data streams that we have to merge after the fact, one on the 8100A and one on the Picarro analyzer, and that merging of data is done by timestamps in the two files. So we need to keep the clocks as synchronized as we possibly can. So there are multiple methods for connecting the two analyzers to make this sync script work. You can use a serial connection or an Ethernet connection. My preference is Ethernet. It's faster and tighter. And when we set this up, we'll set it to sync at midnight, and if you use an Ethernet connection, all your files will start at midnight. If you do it serially, which works just fine, most of your files will start a few minutes after midnight. But to set up the Ethernet connection, we have to first connect serially to the 8100. So I have a USB to serial adapter plugged into the instrument, going to a serial cable plugged into the LI-8100. And the first thing I'm going to do is go to Device Manager and figure out what COM port number Windows has assigned my USB to serial port adapter. In this case, it's COM 10. Now that I know that, I can go to the 8100 software and connect to the instrument using COM port 10. And once I'm connected, I want to go to the 8100 and networking, and I'm going to set it up with a static IP address and a net mask, and I'm going to set up the Windows computer here in a minute with the same net mask and an IP address on the same network. In this case, it's 192.168.1.101 with a net mask of 255.255.0.0. So I can disconnect here. On Windows, I want to go to the local area connection, properties, and then I want to go to Internet Protocol version 4 and properties, and I want to set it to use the following IP address. I want at least the first 2 octets of the IP address to match what the 8100 has. And since the last 2 octets of my net mask are 0, those numbers can be different. Here I'm using 1 and 104, whereas the 8100, the last octet is 101. Now we want to test the Ethernet connection to the 8100. So we'll say connect, TCP IP. We'll put the 8100's IP address in here and hit connect, and it works. On setup for the 8100, we want to set up our chamber measurement following the guidelines in the manual. For whatever chambers we have connected to the multiplexer, we want to configure observation length and data logging. I'm not going to go through that here. You don't actually launch data recording from the 8100 when it's interfaced with the Picarro analyzer. We're going to do that from the sync script. We just want to make sure that the instrument is configured to measure the chambers the way that we want it to. So the next thing we need to do is set up our sync script. So we're going to extract these files. When we extract it, we see that there's 2 executables and a PDF in here. The 2 executables, one is a GUI wrapper for the actual script that does the synchronization, and then we have a little app note in here that walks step by step through how to configure this in the Windows Task Scheduler. I'm going to go ahead and run the GUI part of it, and it's going to prompt me to create a configuration file. And this configuration tells me how I'm connecting to the LI-8100A. So in this case, I'm going to use Ethernet, and then I want to make sure that it has the 8100's IP address in here. I'm going to pick to manage the files, and in this case, what's going to happen when the sync script runs is it'll stop data logging, it'll set the clock on the 8100, and then it'll restart data logging using the information that you provide here. So we're going to put it in internal data storage on the 8100, and then we can create a file name. And every time a new file is created, it uses this base name and appends a date and time stamp to the end of it. So we'll just call this Picarro example. Save this. It's going to connect to the 8100. It's going to go ahead and set the clock. And then it will launch a measurement with this file name, and the script should close itself. And now we have a config file in here, and then any errors that the script encounters as it syncs the clock get logged to this error file. So now that we have the script set up, we need to go create a task for it in the Windows Task Scheduler. We can close this. We go to the task scheduler. We want to create a task. We're going to call it sync 8100. We want to run whether the user is logged in or not. We need to create a trigger. We're going to have it run daily at midnight. Say OK to that. For the action, we're going to start a program. We're going to browse for that program. This is the one that we want it to run. It says that it has this optional argument called start in. This is not optional. So we need to specify the file path to this executable. So we can just copy that from up here. And put that in there. We say OK, and that's all we need to do. So as soon as we click OK here, it's going to create the task. And put it in the task scheduler. In this case, it's requiring root access to create it. So we won't actually set it up today. That's the basics of the pneumatic setup and the software configuration to connect the LI-8100A to the Picarro analyzer. More details can be found in the application note, including how to measure the additional volume that the Picarro analyzer adds to the measurement loop in the 8100 system. It's important to have a good estimate of total volume because it goes directly into the flux computation in a closed transient system like this. If you have further questions or you need more details, feel free to contact us. We're available through the website or through our support group. That's all that I have for today.